You guys ready for the world's first premiere here? This is going to be the first Craftsman plasma table you guys have ever seen. And no, it's not an official Craftsman plasma table. It's a plasma table that I made from an old table saw and scrap metal. And I just wanted to show you guys what you can do with scrap metal and some other discarded pieces of equipment should you be able to get your hands on them. And the possibilities really are endless when you start looking at things in a different way. So stay tuned, and we're going to look at this table saw that I've turned into a plasma table, and we're just going to talk about it, and I'm just going to tell you my thought process when I went into it, and then we'll look at the end result. Alright, here is our victim. This is a Craftsman 10-inch table saw. It was given to me, and it had some issues. When I tried to fix it, I found out that there were a couple pieces that were bent and or broken that were no longer available. So I stripped all the internals out, gave the top to somebody. It was a nice cast iron top, and decided I was going to use it for this table project. I had to take the feet off and the wheels because I knew I wanted to put some better casters on here to make it super easy to move around the shop. So that's what I'm doing here. You can see these wheels were in pretty rough shape. They didn't even swivel. And the wheels I bought were the inline skate rollerblade style wheels. They all swivel and all have brakes. Here I am marking the angle iron. This was also scrap that I get from a source, and it is about 1/4 inch thick. It does have some holes in it, but it's not a big deal. And I decided not to 45 the joints because this bandsaw is a little out of square. So the taller it is, the more crooked the cut will be. So I notched the corners, and I had to grind off all the paint on the edges where it was going to be welded. And I also needed to grind the entire inside so that I could weld the slats in. And I'm just getting everything squared up here with the magnets, and this is the second frame I've built, so it was nice when this kind of just squared up almost by itself. Tacking all the corners in, and then I went back and finish welded everything. And here's a test fit on top of the table saw base. Now I'm starting to cut the slats out of that file shelving system that I brought home. And here's a test fit in the frame. Now that we know that fits, I have about 15 more of these to do. And this was by far the most tedious part of this, was cutting all these and then grinding the paint off all the ends so they could be welded. And I just tacked them in on the front side. And once I moved the magnets, I finished welded on the back. And there they all are installed in the frame on top of the cabinet. Then you can see here the one side was open because that's where the motor for the saw was, and the bottom's open. So I'm cutting out pieces now to fill those so that I can contain all the sparks and slag from the plasma cutter. Here you can see I got the bottom piece laid in there. Then there's some filler panels on the front where some of the adjustments were that I cut out and just tack welded on the back side. And this is the panel held on with magnets in case I need to get in there. I may add a water tray in here later. The slats on the top are made out of pieces from an old file hanging shelving unit. And then the frame is made from 1/4 inch angle. And I hated to use 1/4 inch angle on this project because all it's doing is holding the slats in. However, I wanted to originally use the frame from the same shelf that I got the slat material from, but as you can see, it has some bump outs in it where these used to lock into, and it made it a little difficult to get clean metal down in between for welding. And this is just overall kind of flimsy, and it's not perfectly square. This angle here is not perfectly square on all these pieces. So it made getting everything square a little bit difficult. So as I got partway through, I scrapped that idea and went with this 1/4 inch angle, which I also can get for free. But like I said, it's just I hated to use something this thick and heavy for just a frame. However, a benefit to using this thicker angle for the frame is that it made this top reasonably heavy, and I don't need to attach it down to the base in any way. I can just lift this up now and move it out of the way if I need to get inside, or I can take this whole top and put it on something else and still be able to use it. Now, another thing that I'm going to probably get some comments on are the slats being welded into this frame. And we'll get into that here in just a second, but I did have a reason for doing that, and it was a choice that I made and I'm going to have to deal with down the road. So when it comes to the slats, I know I'm going to get some heat for them being welded in. Normally on these types of tops, the frame has slots in it and they just slip down in there and stay that way. That way you can pull them out and change them as they get cut through and need to be replaced. Now, there's two reasons that I did not do that on this top. One of them being the shape of these slats is it's got this little U kind of bump out in it that would have made it very hard to slot and slide in unless I did them upside down. And then you've only got a little bit of area up here to be able to cut into. Secondly is this material is from a scrap shelving unit. I'm not going to be able to get any more of this more than likely. And there was no reason for me to make it slotted and try to pull it out if I can't get more of the same thing. Had I done this with flat bar or something that I purchased, I would have slotted it because then I could easily replace it. But this whole top didn't cost me anything except for the welding wire and the time that I put into it. And down the road, if I need to, I can cut out these slats and reuse this frame or build a new frame. I have a pretty good supply of this 1/4 inch I use for the frame, so I'm not too concerned about that. I wanted it to be easy to move around the shop out of the way. That's why I've put these casters with those rollerblade style wheels on it. It moves super easy, but they all lock, so it can be in place very solid when I need it to be. But I can also wheel it off into the corner and not have to worry about it being in the middle of the shop. And the big thing for this was just for me to have a place to use my plasma cutter indoors, either in the winter or when it's raining out. Typically I would take it outside and use it outside for a lot of the things that I do, and that works fine. But I do have some projects coming up in the future where I'm going to need to cut out maybe some gussets or small plates, and I wanted to be able to do that indoors while it's not ideal outside, so that didn't push me back further in my timeline. And it's going to do that job just fine. It's going to catch most of the sparks and slag and keep things kind of clean in the shop. One thing I'm thinking about doing in the future is adding a tray down here between the legs to actually house the plasma cutter. Right now it's on the bottom of my welding cart and it is fine there at the moment. However, I would benefit from being able to put one of the other welders on there and moving that plasma cutter off of it. So I may end up putting a table down here. There's actually already some holes I could reuse. Put a frame and put a shelf down here and have the plasma cutter completely housed on here. I just got to watch and make sure that no slag or sparks actually do come out of this table as I use it. Hope you guys got some inspiration out of this project. I really wanted to drive home the point that you don't need a ton of money to do some cool and useful projects. Look around, see what you can find for free, see what people are throwing away, and you can turn it into some pretty useful things. And there are some things I probably would have done differently, but this table cost me less than $30 to make. All the metal was free. The only thing I purchased were the casters. They were about 17 bucks. And then the magnets that hold on the back panel, they were about 10. And I still have several of those left over for future projects. So for under 30 bucks, this table is going to serve me just fine. And I should get a lot of use out of it. And when the time comes to do another one, I can always change it then. If you guys need some more information, some more welding videos, check out this one on flux versus stick welding, or check out this one on where to find scrap metal cheap or free.